think we should start with our first story today. So we're going to talk about 3 stories today. We're going to read 3 stories. I think we're going to go semi-earliest to last. So the 3 ones we have are the Westcar Papyrus, which specifically is sometimes called the story of King Cheops and the Magicians. I have the Wikipedias of each of these up so that we can kind of go back and forth as we read them. Then we're going to read The Eloquent Peasant. This is one that I had to translate. It gets a little boring and repetitive, but we'll get through it. And then I was really happy to find the story of Sinue, which I have never read before. So I think I've read portions of it, but I definitely want to read this one. This one is weirdly written where there's like a lot of notes at the bottom, but we'll get through it. So let's start with the story of King Cheops and the Magicians. This is probably one of the older ones. Let's look what time period we think this. So we think that the story itself is dated to the New Kingdom, but we think that it is composed earlier because of the context of the story. Oh wait, is this the wrong one? This is the wrong story. Westcar Papyrus. Okay. Sorry, I'm checking. So the Westcar Papyrus actually has 5 stories about miracles performed by priests and magicians. So we're gonna read this. Each of these tales are told in the royal court of King Khufu, which is gonna be the 4th dynasty, by his sons. But the papyrus itself probably dates closer to the 13th dynasty, but is probably kind of back and forth. It's definitely older. It's definitely closer to the New Kingdom, but probably talks about a past thing. So Henry Westcar apparently discovered the papyrus during his travels in Egypt in 1823-1824. Probably purchased it, but he does not write down any of the exact circumstances. And then the weirdest thing is that the German Egyptologist Carl Richard Lepsius is really important because he was one of the first people who went around and numbered all of the pyramids that we have today. Which, hysterically, Lepsius marked a couple things as pyramids that are not pyramids or have not actually been found. It's not as many as I thought. I remember we looked through this the other day. We looked through this a couple months ago, I think. But there are a few things that he marked that we don't know where they are now because he didn't really tell us. But he's very important in that way. And so he claims to have received the papyrus from Westcar's niece in 1838 or 1839, and he was able to read some of the hieratic and some of the cartouches of the king. And so he dated the text to the Old Kingdom because obviously the text has the name of the King Khufu, but now we are kind of like, wait a second, no, this is probably much later. He never made the text of the Westcar Papyrus public. He stored the papyrus in his home in his attic where it was found after his death. Jeez Louise. So now people actually think Lepsius may have stolen the papyrus. So then the German Egyptologist Adolf Erman purchased the papyrus from Lepsius' son and then left it to the Museum of Berlin. There's also a couple different outcomes of the translation. So we are doing Blackman's translation, which is created in 2008 by Netterhoff. Maybe not Blackman. I'm very confused. I'm always very confused about these documents that I keep finding, but so let's start reading the story. So again, this is 5 different stories. I don't believe they're all what's it called? Finished, but We will read them and see what we find. So, then the majesty of the king... So, already you can tell... It shouldn't say then, because there's nothing indicating that it's then. But it appears that the story has already started and has been cut off from the beginning. So, then the majesty of the king in Upper and Lower Egypt, Cheops, or Khufu. We're just going to say Khufu because it's not Cheops. Cheops is Greek. Khufu justified. Because you see this, it says Hufu. Hufu. Hufu is how you say his name. Hufu. Mahaheru. Mahaheru means he's actually dead, which is interesting. So the majesty of King of Upper and Lower Egypt, Khufu, justified, said, "Let an offering be made of 1,000 loaves of bread, 100 jars of beer, 1 ox, and 2 balls of incense. To the King of Upper and Lower Egypt, Djoser, justified." Very interesting that he is talking about Djoser. Yeah, Djoser, which you can see, Djoser, which is a previous king who is also deceased. So he's going back even further in time. "And let there be 1 cake, 1 jug of beer, a large portion of meat, and 1 ball of incense. To the chief lector priest, Interestingly, they have inserted Imhotep, even though it is not actually written in. But presumably, they would know that this is Imhotep, I guess, which is kind of strange. But okay. Imhotep. "As I have seen an example of his learning. And one did as everything that his majesty had ordered. Then the prince Khephren, who is technically Khafre, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Khafre. Yeah, Khafre. So Prince Khafre, who is the second big pyramid. Then Prince Khafre stood up to speak and said, "I will let your majesty hear a wonder that happened in the time of your forefather Nebka justified. And as he proceeded to the temple of Ptah, lord of Ankhtawi, now it was his majesty who went to..." There's an ellipses, which means we don't know what the next part is. "And it was his majesty who performed the rite of the chief lecture priest Ubaner was with..." Oh, there's a lot of gaps. "Was with the wife of Ubaner. Then she had a chest full of clothes to him. Then he came back with the maid. After some days have passed after this, there was a pavilion in the garden of Ubanir. The commoner said to the wife of Ubanir, 'Is there not a pavilion in the garden of Ubanir?' Look, let us spend some time in it." Then the wife of Ubanir sent a message to the caretaker, who was in charge of the garden, to say, "Let the pavilion that is in the garden be prepared." And she spent the day there drinking with the commoner. After it had become evening, he came out. And he went down to the pool, and the maid and the caretaker, Ubanir, with... God, there's some blanks. With the second day dawned, the caretaker went... ... This matter, pool. See all these? These are all gaps, unfortunately. He gave it to his lord. ... Bank of water. Then ... And Ubanir said, yeah, this is all missing. Bring me something of ebony and electrum. Crocodile of 7? Something? Then he read out. I'm gonna skip some of this. He comes to wash in my pool, commoner. Then he gave it to the caretaker and said to him, as soon as the commoner has gone into the pool, as is his daily custom, then you will throw this crocodile, oh no, after him. Oh God. Apparently the commoner gets too comfortable in the pool and they start throwing shit at him. The caretaker then went and took the crocodile of wax with him. Oh, it's a fake crocodile. It's a crocodile of wax. Is it just to scare him, I guess? It must be. Then the wife of Ubanir sent a message to the caretaker, who was in charge of the garden, to say, let the pavilion that is in the garden be prepared, since I'm coming to sit in it. Oh no, I already sense what's going on. Then the pavilion was prepared with every good thing, and they went and spent a happy day with the commoner. Oh God. After it has become evening, the commoner came out, as was his daily custom. Then the caretaker threw the crocodile of wax after him into the water. And it became a crocodile of 7 cubits! Holy shit! It became an actual crocodile. And it seized the commoner. Now, Ubanir was to remain with the majesty of the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, Nekba, justified, for 7 days, while the commoner was, poop, ellipses, while the commoner was something. After the 7 days had passed, the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, Nekba, justified, proceeded, ... Then the chief lector priest Ubanir placed himself before his majesty, and Ubanir said him, blank told to me, may your majesty proceed, and may you see the wonder that has happened in the time of your majesty. So I guess he's telling him that the crocodile of wax became a real crocodile, probably, I guess. A commoner, Ubanir. Then Ubanir summoned the crocodile to say, bring the commoner and the... Oh my God, this is also gappy. Then the chief lector priest Ubanir said, it's not. And it placed something with him. Then the majesty of the king in Upper and Lower Egypt, justified, said, perhaps it is a crocodile. Ubanir then bent down and picked it up, and in his hand it was a crocodile of wax. Then the chief lector priest Ubanir recounted this thing the commoner had been doing in his house with his wife. I had a feeling that this was the commoner was doing something with the wife. It wasn't explicitly said because I think there were so many gaps, but I think I kind of knew. To the majesty of king in Upper and Lower Egypt, justified, Nekba. Then his majesty said to the crocodile, take what is yours. The crocodile then went down to the pool, and the place where it went with him never became known. Then the majesty of the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, Nekba, justified, had the wife of Ubanir taken away, oh no! To a plot of land north of the residence. And he burnt her, oh my God. And threw her in the river. Well then, this story has taken a drastic turn. Look, a wonder that happened in the time of your forefather, the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, Nekba, which is something that the chief lector priest Ubaner did. Then the majesty of the king in Upper and Lower Egypt, Khufu, justified, said, let an offering be made of 1,000 loaves of bread, 100 jars of beer, 1 ox, and 2 balls of incense to the king in Upper and Lower Egypt, Nekba, justified, and let there be given 1 cake, 1 jug of beer, and a large portion of meat, and 1 ball of incense to the chief lector priest Ubanir. You forgot a question, or you remembered a question that you forgot last time. And hello, Daniel Sargent. How are you? Welcome to the stream. As I have seen an example of his learning. So, this is the weirdest thing. So, if you remember the very beginning of the story, it started with all the offerings that he's giving to Djoser. So that means that, unfortunately, we don't have the text from the beginning, but it means that there was this thing, essentially, his son's Khafre is telling his father Khufu about stories of magic that priests have done to previous pharaohs. So it seems like the first story was supposed to be about Djoser, but you didn't get any of the story. You only got the conclusion of the story, which is when, after the story has been told, Khufu is saying, oh, let's send some offerings over to that particular pharaoh, as well as his priest who did the magic portion. It's hot. I'm so sorry. It was like 60s today. It was literally the most beautiful day, and I was stuck inside during all work, but okay, that's no problem. So we're reading the Reskar Papyrus right now, which has a series of like 5 different stories. So we just read the first one. It's over 100 degrees. What the heck? We're having a cold spell right now. I'm very excited. Fall is here. So yeah, looks like we're finishing up the first story, although it's very broken up, so we only got like half a portion of that story. So this looks like the next part. If it's in red, it usually means it's the next part of the story, like it's starting a new portion. So I think that's why this is red. Then Ba-F-Re stood up to speak and said, drink some for the ad. Four, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the heat or your question? Probably the question. All right. So then Ba-F-Re stood up to speak and said, I will let your majesty hear a wonder that happened. In the time of your forefather, Snofru, which is Seneferu. It will come back to you. If I know it's not technically the right thing, but if you pray to Saint Anthony, which is the patron saint of lost things, it always works, even if you're not religious. You just say, Saint Anthony, I've lost something. Usually you can find it pretty easily. So this is Seneferu. So this is the guy who built the Red Pyramid, the Bent Pyramid, the Meidum Pyramid. So they're talking about probably Khufu's dad, maybe grandfather, but like the pharaoh just before Khufu and Khafre and Menkaure. Oh, God, I'm tired today. So, in the time of your forefather, Seneferu justified, and that is something that the chief lector priest, oh God, that's a long name. I need to look at the hieroglyphs for this one, surprisingly. Jaja M. Ankh. Jaja M. Ankh. Jaja M. Ankh. Did. Things that have not happened. Every room of the palace. Oh, and then it's life, prosperity, and health. To seek distraction for himself. But he could not find any. Then he said, go and bring me the chief lector, priest, and book scribe, Jaja M. Ankh. This is like the longest name. This is a long-ass name. And he was brought to him immediately. Then his majesty said to him, I've gone through every room of the palace, life, prosperity, and health, to seek distraction for myself. But I could not find any. Then Jaja M. Ankh said to him, scrolling in, oh, may your majesty proceed to the lake of the palace, life, prosperity, and health, and man a ship with all beautiful women from inside your palace. The heart of your majesty will be gladdened by seeing them row a trip back and forth, and seeing the beautiful reeds of your lake, and seeing its surrounding fields and its beautiful water sides. Your heart will be gladdened by this. So I will arrange my rowing trip. Let me be brought 20 oars of ebony plated with gold, with handles of sekeb wood plated with electrum. Ooh, very fancy. Let me be brought 20 women who have beautiful bodies. Oh no. Who have well-developed bosoms. Oh god, y'all are missing out on these hieroglyphs. Well-developed bosoms, who have braided hair, and who have not been opened by childbirth. Jesus Christ. Very, very thirsty. And let me be brought 20 nets. Why does he need 20 nets? And let these nets be given to these women after their clothes have been taken off. Oh, Jesus, why didn't I know this? I should have read these before we started. Cool, great. And one did as everything that his majesty had ordered. Then they rowed back and forth, and the heart of his majesty was gladdened by seeing them row. Then one woman who was at the stroke oar got entangled in her braids. Oh no! Oh no! And a fish pendant of her new turquoise fell into the water. Oh no! Then she became still without rowing, and her side became still without rowing. Then his majesty said, can't you row? And they said, our stroke has become still without rowing. And then his majesty said to her, why aren't you rowing? The fish pendant of new turquoise has fallen into the water. Oh god, then there's a gap. Then blank to her. Then it's probably then he said to her, blank blank replaced. I will have it replaced or something like that. And then she said, I prefer my own thing to its substitute. Very, very fancy of her. Very sentimental. Then his majesty said, go and bring me the chief lector priest Jaja M. Ankh. And he was brought to him immediately. Then his majesty said, Jaja M. Ankh, my brother, I have done what you have said. And the heart of his majesty was gladdened by seeing them row. Then a fish pendant of new turquoise of one of the strokes fell into the water, and she became still without rowing. And so it happened that she disrupted her side. Then he said to her, why is it that you're not rowing? And she said to me, the fish pendant of new turquoise has fallen into the water. Again, the repetition is just like nonsensical. Then I said to her, row, look, I myself will replace it. And she said to me, I prefer my own thing to its substitute. Just repeating everything. Then the chief lector priest, Jaja-Emonk, said his magic spell and put one side of the water of the lake on top of one top of the other. What does that mean? And found the fish pendant lying on a shard. Then he fetched it and gave it to its owner. Now as for the water, it was 12 cubits in its middle. And it ended up being 24 cubits after its folding up. Then he said his magic spell and returned the parts of water to the lake to their positions. His Majesty spent a day of celebration with the entire royal household, life, prosperity, and health. And finally, he rewarded the chief lector priest, Jaja-Emonk, with every good thing. Look, a wonder that happened in the time of your forefather, the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, Senefru, justified. And that is something that the chief lector priest and book scribe Jaja-Emonk did. Then the Majesty of King and Upper and Lower Egypt's Khufu, justified, said, let an offering be made of 1,000 loaves of bread, 100 jars of beer, 1 ox, and 2 balls of incense to the Majesty of the King and Upper and Lower Egypt, Senefru, justified, and let there be given 1 cake, 1 jug of beer, and a ball of incense to the chief lector priest and book scribe Jaja-Emonk, as I have seen an example of his learning. And one did as everything that his Majesty had ordered. Now here's the next one. So isn't that so funny? Every time we're reading these, this happened last stream and the stream before it, where every time I'm reading something, I'm suddenly like, wow, there are just small little snippets of these stories that are so resembling of Bible stories. And I'm just like, now I'm so deeply convinced that a lot of these were so oral and were so passed down that they eventually sort of developed into Bible stories. So like this one is literally Moses. Like it's a literal guy who is moving the water up so that you can get something from the bottom. It's so similar in a lot of ways to it. So the next story starts as, then Prince Hordedef stood up to speak and said, blank deed is something known by those who have passed away. One cannot distinguish truth from falsehood. There is someone under your majesty and in your own time who does not know blank. And his majesty said, what is this, Hordedef, my son? Prince Hordedef said, there is a commoner called Jedi. This is the story I wanted you guys all to hear. This is the best story, so get ready. Called Jedi. If you've ever heard this, it's the best. Who lives in Jed Senefru. He is a commoner, 110 years old, who eats 500 loaves of bread, a shoulder of beef for meat, and drinks 100 jars of beer up to this day. He knows how to mend a severed head. He knows how to make a lion walk beside him, who's with its leash on the ground. He knows the number of chambers of the sanctuary of Thoth. Now, the majesty of the king in Upper and Lower Egypt, Khufu, justified, spent the day seeking for himself these chambers of the sanctuary of Thoth, in order to make something similar for himself for his quote-unquote horizon. His majesty said, you yourself, Hordedef, my son, will bring him to me. Then boats were prepared for Prince Hordedef and went southward to Jed Senefru. And the boats had been moored to the riverbank. He traveled over land, seated in a palanquin of ebony, with poles of sesengem wood. Specific type of wood, obviously. Plated with gold. The prince is being super fancy. When he had reached Jedi, the palanquin was set down, and then he stood up to greet him. He found him lying on a mat at the threshold of his blank, while a servant at his head was anointing him, and another was rubbing his feet. Then the Prince Hordedef said, "Your condition is like that of one who lives before the infirmary of old age, although old age means dying, laying to rest, and burial, and who sleeps till dawn, free from illness, without old age of coughing. Greetings, O blessed one. I have come here to summon you by order to my father Khufu justified. You will eat delicacies provided by the king, the foods of his companions. He will lead you through a good lifetime, and to your forefathers who are in the necropolis." And this Jedi said, "Welcome, welcome, Hordedef, prince who is beloved of his father. May your father Khufu justified favor you. May he advance your position among the elders. May your spirit contend with your enemy, and may your soul know the roads that lead to the portal of him who shelters the dead. Greetings, O prince." Then Prince Hordedef held out his arms to him and raised him up. He proceeded with him to the riverbank and giving him his arm. Don't forget, he's 110 years old. Jedi then said, "Let me be given one of the barges, so that it may bring me the children and my books. Then 2 boats were made available to him together with their crew. And Jedi came northward in the barge in which Prince Hordedef was. After he had reached the residence, which is also known as the palace, Prince Hordedef entered to report to the majesty of the king in Upper and Lower Egypt, Khufu justified. And Prince Hordedef said, "Sovereign, life, prosperity, and health, my lord, I have brought Jedi." And his majesty said, "Go and bring him to me." His majesty then proceeded to the audience hall of the palace, life, prosperity, and health, and Jedi was ushered into him. Then his majesty said, "How is it, Jedi, that I haven't been made to see you before?" And Jedi said, "He comes who is summoned. Sovereign, life, prosperity, and health, summon me, and look, I've come." He's so sassy. I love Jedi. Then his majesty said, "Is it the truth what they say, that you know how to mend a severed head?" And Jedi said, "Yes, I know how to, sovereign, life, prosperity, and health, my lord." Then his majesty said, "Let me be brought a criminal who is in prison, and let his sentence be executed." Whereupon Jedi said, "But not a human, sovereign, life, prosperity, and health, my lord." That's my favorite part. My favorite part is just so funny. "Look, doing something like that to the noble flock is not ordained." Daniel Sargent, have you remembered your question? I'm gonna take a quick pause because my throat's starting to hurt. This is the best part of the story, though. Let's go back. Not much. Although it is not necessarily, can be proven, arranged marriages sort of may have been a thing, but we don't know really much because, it seems to be a little bit more of a free-for-all in a lot of ways. A lot of the love poetry we have is very free-for-all and kind of love who you love. And then the closest thing that we have to a word for marriage is literally a word that means to make a home, that is the word that is used when people get married. It is literally, you are just making a home together and you are just moving in together, and that's pretty much it. There doesn't seem to be really any pomp and circumstance of marriage, though we do know about the divorces, which we know are via contracts and things like that. But it seems like they're very wishy-washy and they're very flowy, but we don't have a lot of really good concrete evidence of like how people developed relationships, because mainly, unfortunately, all we have is evidence of the rich and famous, in which probably those were potentially arranged in certain ways. But yeah, thank you so much for the likes on the TikTok live. Welcome everybody. We are reading the story of Jedi within the Westcar Papyrus, and we have reached the pinnacle point where Jedi, who has been claimed that he can repair severed heads, is doing this in front of the king, and the king says, why don't we just bring a prisoner and I'll cut off and I'll execute him and then you can repair his severed head. And Jedi's like, no, like, we should do something else. So then a goose was brought to him, and its head was cut off. The goose was placed at the west hall side of the audience hall, and its head on the east side of the audience hall. Then Jedi said his magic spell, and the goose stood up, waddling. Its head likewise. After one had reached the other, and the goose stood up, cackling. Then he had the Hetz-a-a goose brought to him, just a different breed of goose, and the same was done to it. Then his majesty had a bull brought to him, and its head was felled to the ground. And Jedi said his magic spell, and the bull stood up behind him, and its leash having fallen from the ground. Then King Khufu justified said, now, what is said is that you know the number of chambers of the Sanctuary of Thoth. It's sort of unclear what the Sanctuary of Thoth is, but since Thoth is like the writer god, he's like the god who's recording history, it could be said that this is like kind of like a really big library, or like a temple library, or something a little bit more mystical as well. It could be more of like a... Some people, I think, associate this with like a labyrinth, which I think is kind of wrong, but I digress. So the Khufu wants to know what are the number of the chambers of the Sanctuary of Thoth. And has said that Jedi knows it. And Jedi said, I beg your pardon. I don't know the number, therefore, sovereign, life, prosperity, and health, my lord. But I know the place where it is kept. Then his majesty said, so, where? And this Jedi said, there is a casket of flint in a room called the Inventory in Heliopolis. Well, it is in that casket. Then his majesty said, go and bring it to me. And Jedi said, sovereign, life, prosperity, and health, my lord, look, I am not the one who will bring it to you. Then his majesty said, who then will bring it to me? And Jedi said, the eldest of the 3 children who are in the womb of Rujedet will bring it to you. Then his majesty said, I want it! These things that you say, who is she, this Rujedet? And Jedi said, she is the wife of a priest Rey, lord of Shabaku, who is pregnant with 3 children of Rey, lord of Shabaku. He has said about it, they will perform this magistratal office in this entire land. The eldest of them will be the high priest in Heliopolis. And his majesty fell into a bad mood at this. Mood is probably the wrong word, but it says heart. It's his heart. So it's probably his heart became sad or bad. Jewett. This is what we call the bad bird. I don't know how else to describe it, but every time that bird specifically isn't a word, it's usually a bad term. So we call it the bad bird. Then Jetty said, what's this mood of the sovereign? So it's what is the heart of the sovereign, life, prosperity, and health, my lord? Was it caused by the 3 children that I have mentioned? First your son, then one of them. Then his majesty said, when will Regedet give birth? And Jetty said, she will give birth on the 15th day of the first month of the season of growing. Then his majesty said, but that's when the sandbanks of the 2-fish canal are cut off. Might I visit it myself so that I could see the temple of Re Lord Shabaku? Then Jetty said, then I will let 4 cubits of water appear on the sandbank of the 2-fish canal. And his majesty will proceed to his palace. Then his majesty said, have Jetty assigned to the house of Prince Hordedef. He will reside with him, and he will be provided with 1,000 loaves of bread, 100 jars of beer, 1 ox, 100 bundle of vegetables. And one did everything that his majesty had ordered. One of those days, Regedet was suffering, while her labor was difficult. Then the majesty of Re, lord of Shabaku, said, to Isis, Nephthys, Meshchenet, Heket, and Khnum, oh, may you go and deliver Regedet of the 3 children who are in her womb, who will perform this magistratal office in this entire land. For they will build your temples, provision your altars, make your libation vessels abundant, and increase your divine offerings. Then these gods proceeded as after they had changed their appearance into that of musicians. And Khnum was with them carrying luggage. Luggage is a hysterical word to use. Then they arrived at the house of Renusre and found him standing with his kilt upside down. What? And then they presented him with their minutes and sistra. He then said to them, my ladies, look, there is a woman who is suffering, for her labor is difficult. Then they said, let us see her. We are knowledgeable about childbirth. And he said to them, come in. When they entered towards Regedet, and they locked the room with her and them in it. Then Isis placed herself before her, Nephthys behind her, and Henkent was hastening the birth. Then Isis said, May you not be powerful in her womb in this name of yourselves, Useref, otherwise known as Userkaf. So here is the really, really cool part about this story, is that these 3 sons, these 3 children that are born, the reason why we know that this could not have been written like during the reign of Khufu or during the reign of Khafre is that these mention the names of later pharaohs, Userkaf being one of them. And Userkaf is one of the 3 babies. And this child rushes into her arms, a baby of 1 cubit. His bones were strong, his limbs were destined to be of gold, and his scalp of real lapis lazuli. And they washed him after his umbilical cord had been cut, and he was placed on the couch of brick. Yes, they have magic bricks. We're going to talk about those maybe later, if we have time. Then Meshchenet approached him and said, a king who will perform the kingship in this entire land. And Khnum made his body healthy. Then Isis placed herself before her, Nephthys behind her, and Henkent was hastening the birth. Then Isis said, may you not kick in her womb in this name of yours, Sahu Re. That's the next pharaoh that we're talking about. And this child rushed into her arms, a baby of 1 cubit. His bones were strong, his limbs were destined to be of gold, his scalp of real lapis lazuli. And they washed him after his umbilical cord had been cut, and he was placed on a couch of brick. Then Meshchenet approached him and said, a king who will perform the kingship in this entire land. And Khnum made his limbs healthy. And then Isis placed herself before her, Nephthys behind her, and Henket was hastening the birth. Then Isis said, "May you not stay dark in her womb, and this is the name of you, Keku." Also could be named as Nefer-Ir-Kare. Nefer-Ir-Kare. And this child rushed into her arms, a baby of 1 cubit. His bones were strong, his limbs were destined to be of gold. Da 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 da. Repeat. The scalp of real lapis lazuli. Then Meshkanet approached him and said, "The king who will perform the kingship in this entire land." And Khnum made his limbs healthy, and they washed him after his umbilical cord had been cut, and he was placed on a couch of brick. These gods then went out, having delivered Rejudet of the 3 children. Dang mouse. And they said, "Rejoice, Re-Usur-Re, for the 3 children have been born to you." Then he said to him, "My ladies, what can I do for you? Please give this barley to your bearer and accept it as a tip." As a tip! It's hysterical. Then Khnum loaded himself with barley, and they proceeded to where they had come from. Then Isis said to these gods, "What is it that we have come for, if not to perform a wonder for these children, that we may report to their father who let us come?" Then they created 3 lordly crowns, life, prosperity, and health, and then they put them in the barley. Then they made the sky turn into storm and rain, and they returned to the house. They said, "Please put the barley in here in a sealed room until we return from making music in the north." And they put the barley in a sealed room. Then Rejudet became pure in a purification of 14 days. Then she said to her maid, "Has the house been prepared?" And she said, "It has been prepared with every good thing, except for the jars that they haven't been brought." Then Rejudet said, "But why haven't the jars been brought?" And the maid said, "There is nothing for contents here, except for the barley of these musicians, which is in a room under their seal." Then Rejudet said, "Go down and fetch it from there, and Re-Usur-Re will give them compensation for it after he returns." And the maid went and opened the room. And she heard the noise of singing, music making, dancing, cheering, and everything that is done for a king in that room. Then she went and recounted everything she had heard to Rejudet. And then she went through the room, but couldn't find the place where it was done. Then she put her ear to the sack and found it was being done in it. Then she put it in a box, which was put in another chest bound with leather. She put it in a room containing her belongings and locked it up. Then Re-Usur-Re returned, coming from the land, and Rejudet recounted this matter to him, and he was exceedingly happy. Then they sat down for a day of celebration. Now when some days have passed after this, Rejudet had a quarrel with the maid, and had her punished with a beating. Oh God. Then the maid said to the people in the household, "Is it done this to me? She had given birth to 3 kings. I'll go and tell this to the majesty of King in Upper Lower Egypt, Khufu." Hi, Star! We're reading the very, very end of the Westcar Papyrus. And I was going to read 2 others, but this one was way longer than I thought of. I didn't realize there are 302 pages of this. We're on 285. Justified. And she went and found her eldest uncle on her mother's side, okay, binding flax and yarn on the terrace. And he said to her, where are you making off to, little girl?" And she recounted this matter to him. I underestimated this severely. I was mostly looking for this story, but this story is by far the longest one. Thank you, Vaxis. I'm so glad you like it. Then her uncle said to her, "And what is to be done is what you do, coming to me, and I should join in the betrayal." There's so much more detail. I know the gist of the story, but there's just so much more detail when you're actually reading it. I did not know this whole story about the maid. I did not know all the story about the gods coming to help Regedet give birth. There's so many great things that I've never read in this. Then he took a bundle of flax to her and administered a nasty blow. This poor maid. Oh my god. Then the maid went up to get a cup of water for herself, and a crocodile snatched her. Oh my god. Her uncle then went to tell this to Regedet, and he found Regedet sitting in grief. Her mood was exceedingly bad, and he said to her, "My lady, why are you in this mood?" And she said, "It's the girl who grew up in this house. Look, she's gone, saying, 'I'll go and betray.'" Then he bent his head down and said, "My lady, in fact, she came to tell me, blank, she might go with me." Then I administered her a nasty blow, and she went to draw some water from herself, and a crocodile snatched her. No! That's the end? No. There has to be more. Are you kidding me? That's where it ends? That is a wild... I mean, I'm sure that's where the papyrus cuts off, but that's a wild ending. That can't be where it ends. I need to... And this is the point where the papyrus ends, yeah. A tragic tale indeed, yeah. The brother starts to confess what has happened, and at this point, the papyrus story ends. Crazy. Crazy, crazy story. But yeah, it's very interesting. I didn't know all this portion of like the actual birth. That's really, really cool. But it also, the weirdest thing is that this prophecy essentially details the beginnings of the 5th dynasty, starting with Userkaf Sahu Re, and saying that they're brothers, and there's a triplet in there as well, which is super, super interesting. How long is the Eloquent Peasant? Okay. I kind of want to read Sinue because I know the Eloquent Peasant story, and it's interesting, but it's not as interesting. I don't know Sinue very well. And this is also a different format, somebody translating it, so it might be shorter technically. So, let's quickly look at... So this is the story of Sinue, likely composed beginning in the 12th dynasty after the death of Amenemhet I. And the oldest known copy of the text dates the reign of Amenemhet III around 1800 BCE. It's so popular within Egypt that newer copies have been found ranging up to 750 years after the original. I wanted to see the sources. So one of the versions was found by Cabell on papyri called the Ramesseum papyri. Many have medicinal subject matter, but the Tale of Sinue has also been found. New Kingdom Ostracon, and a duplicate of the text. Was discovered at the Museum of Natural History in Buenos Aires, which means it is totally and utterly burnt to a crisp and gone. Isn't that fun? But it apparently is found in many, many more papyri, so that's good. So let's read it. So, alrighty, this. So it's during the reign of Senusret I, approximately 1917 to 1872 BCE. But he's taking the throne name of Keper Ka-Re. So this is a little bit, but it's in the middle between the pyramids and Tutankhamun. So let's start to read it. And you can see here it says where we're getting it from. So apparently we're getting it from a papyrus. Oh, am I wrong? The Buenos Aires Museum is fine. What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of... I don't know why. I always think Buenos Aires is in Brazil. And I know it's not, but I always think Buenos Aires is in Brazil. I think it's the bees for some reason. You're right. Buenos Aires is Argentina. National Museum of Brazil is in... But what's the capital of Brazil? I'm blanking. I'm blanking what the capital of Brazil is. I'm not good with capitals. But the National Museum of Brazil in the capital of Brazil. Oh, Brasilia. That's... Honestly... I did not know that. Yeah, I don't know why. I always think Buenos Aires is in Brazil, which is so stupid because every time I think of Buenos Aires, I hear, what's new? Buenos Aires. Oh, Rio. God damn it. Rio de Janeiro. Thank you. I was going to say, I didn't think it was, yeah, it's in Rio de Janeiro. I don't know why. I cannot get the two mixed. I get the two mixed up all the time. Rio de Janeiro is in Brazil and Buenos Aires is in Argentina. So, not destroyed. Thank you for telling me that, Star, because I still... My modern day version of the Library of Alexandria burning is the National Museum of Brazil burning, because it's just such a sad story. Okay, so let's read the story of Sinue. So it's coming from a papyrus in Berlin, it looks like. So there's a lot of notes at the bottom that we will be skipping over. So we're just reading this text over here. So, nobleman and overlord, governor and canal cutter, sovereign among the Syrians, once known to the king directly, his favorite, the follower Senat. He says, scrolling down, I am a follower who follows his lord, a servant of the family quarters of the king. Of the noble woman abounding in favor, king's wife of Senusret in Kenemsut, king's daughter of Amenemhat in Neferu, lady of reverence. Regnal year 30, month 3 of the flood season, day 7. Love it when they give a full date, because technically, if we know what pharaoh is going on with the regnal year, we can actually find out like what approximate year this is taking place, which is really cool. The god ascended to his horizon, the dual king of Sehetep Ibra. He fared up to the sky, joining with the sun disk, a divine limbs merging with his creator. The residence was in silence, hearts in sorrow, the double gates sealed, the court with head on knees, the nobles in lament. This means the pharaoh died. There's an ad. So as you see, here, they use this throne name, Sehetib Ira, and that's the throne name of King Amenemhat I. So we know exactly which one this is. And the residence is literally like the palace or the capital. Now his majesty has sent an army against the land of Timhu with his eldest son and its commander, the good god Senusret, and he sent to smite the hill lands to quell the inhabitants of Tehenu. He was just on his return. He had brought the captives of Tehenu and all the limitless herds. To the courtiers of the palace dispatched to the western reaches to inform the king's son of the turn of events in the chamber, that envoys found him on the road and had reached him at the time of dusk. Not a slight moment did he delay, the falcon he flew off with his followers without having his army informed of it. That's not good. Now there was a dispatch with regard to the king's children, who were following him in this army. One of them was summoned. Now I was up and heard his voice. When he was speaking, I was a short distance away. We hear our narrator, our character. My heart stopped, my arms crossed, trembling fell through my whole body. I slipped back in starts to seek out a hiding place, to place myself between the bushes, to remove the way and its farer. I made my way south, without thinking of approaching this residence. I imagined there would be bloodshed, and I denied I could survive it. I negotiated the Sea of Truth in the area of the Sycamore, and I made it to the island of Senefru. I rested on the curb of the fields and moved on when it came to day. I crossed a man standing at a fork in the road. He hailed me, but I feared him. Whoa, okay, lots of text. Evening fell as I trod on to the mooring post of the Horned Bull. I ferried across it in a cargo boat without a rudder, thanks to a breeze from the west. I crossed by the east of the quarry in the ascent of the goddess of the Red Mountain. I forced my legs to move on northward. I reached the walls of the ruler, made to repeal the Syrians and trample on the nomads. I took my shelter in the bush, from fear of being seen by the guard on the wall who was on duty, and made my way at night. So if you can see, this guy is giving notes about all the different places. So the Red Mountain is Gebel Ahmar, which is Arabic for Red Mountain. And this is a quartzite outcroppings northeast of modern Cairo. And then the walls of the ruler is probably the different military defense installations along the road to the Sinai. So this guy is going up north of Egypt and trying to essentially get over to the Near East, over to the Asia section. At daybreak, I reached Peten and alighted at the land of the great black water. Thirst struck, it overwhelmed me. I panted, my throat parched. I said, "This is the taste of death, binding my heart and my body." Logically, this would be the bitter lakes on the road from the Nile Delta to the Sinai. The sight of a great tract of salt water would have been a natural stimulus to the thirst of Sinui in this section. So he may have drank salt water from these saltwater lakes. I heard the sound of lowing cattle and sighted Syrians. I was spied out by one of their scouts who had been in Egypt. Then he gave me water and milk was cooked for me. I went with him to his people where what they did was good. That's very nice. Hill land passed me to hill land. I wound up in Byblos and I traveled up to Kedem. I had spent a year and a half there when Amuneshi fetched me, he being a ruler of the hinterland of Syria. So he's all the way over in Lebanon and in the Levant, which is apparently amazing. He said to me, "You would be well with me. You can hear Egyptian." He said this because he knew my character and he had heard of my talent. The Egyptians who were there with him have given witness for me. Then he said to me, "How is it that you have reached these parts? Has something happened in the residence?" Meaning like the capital, sort of. Then I said to him, "The dual king Sethep-Ibra has gone to the horizon. How it has happened is not known, but I was told indirectly. I was coming with the Timeni land army when it was reported to me. My heart failed and brought me on the road of flight, though I had not been implicated and no accusation had been made against me. Though so slander has been heard and my name had not been mentioned by the reporter, I do not know what brought me to this hill land. It is as if the sight of the god as the Delta man seeing himself in Abu, or a marshman in the land of the bow." Then he said to me, "How will that land be now without that effective god, whose fear permeated the hill lands like Sekhmet in the year of the plague?" Then I addressed myself to him in reply to him, why his son is entering the palace, and he has taken up the inheritance of his father. He is a god without equal, with no other existing before him. He is a master of far-sightedness, excellent in planning, effective in decrees. Coming and going follow his decrees. He is the one suppressing the hill lands while his father was within the palace. And reporting to him that whatever he ordained has come to pass. He is truly a strong man made by a strong arm, a man of action. No one comes close to him. He is to be seen as he descends for archery, joining the fray. He is the one who takes the horn, wearing down all hands, so his enemy cannot gather their forces. He is one cleansed in sight, cleaving foreheads, so no one can stand in his way. He is one who strides ahead to shoot down those in flight, giving no quarter to the man who turns tail. He is stout-hearted in the moment of the charge. He is the turner who never turns tail. He is the broad-hearted one when he sees the multitude, who never places rest before his heart. Woo! He loves this guy. He is the forward mover when he descends to the easterners. His delight is the plunder of archery. He takes his shield, tramples underfoot. He never raises his arm twice for the kill. His arrow never strays. His bow never strains. The nomads are rooted before him as at the might of the great goddess. He fights and plans the outcome. He never guards without event. Oh my god, it just keeps on going. So, what does this tell me? This absolutely tells me that this was written probably for this pharaoh, for this prince, as a just giant brag of all of his achievements. Truly, I think that's what this is. He is a lord of mercy, full of kindness. He is conquered by love. His citizens love him more than themselves. They rejoice over him more than over their God. Women surpass men in extolling him, and he is king. As he is king, he has conquered still in the egg. His face was set to it from the moment he was born. With him come the increase in births. He is the sole one of the gift of God. How joyful is this land that he has come to rule. He is the one who extends the border. He will seal the southern lands. Before considering the northern lands, he has been made to smite the Syrians and trample the nomads. Send to him and let him know your name. Do not plot anything against his majesty. He will do everything for you that his father did. He will not fail to do good for the hill land that will be loyal to him. He spoke before me. Yeah, I know. That was 4 whole pages of bragging about this guy, which I hate to say it, this guy only knows him as a prince. He does not know how he will be king because this guy left as soon as the king died, which is just so funny to me. He spoke before me. Then fair Egypt, she is indeed the land that knows his firmness. You are here, though, and will be with me. What I do for you will be good. He placed me at the head of his children. He settled me with his eldest daughter, and let me choose for myself from his hill land, from the choicest of his surrounds on the border of the next hill land. It was a fair land called Iaa. There were figs there and grapes. It had wine more abundant than water. Its honey was plentiful, its plant oil innumerable. On its trees were all kinds of fruit. There was barley there and wheat, and ultimately unlimited cattle of every kind. Much also accrued to me as coming for love of me. He made me ruler of a clan from the most select of his hill land. I acquired food, jars, and wine in the course of a day. Meat was cooked, duck was roasted, as well as the livestock. They laid snares for me, they laid down the catch for me, as well as the goods of my hounds. They made for me numerous foods. Does that really say hounds? Sorry, I need to check this. I don't think it says hounds. No, it's Hesemu. Yeah, wait, where's the dog, though? Hi, Ruby Mad Hatter. Where the heck does it say Tessemu? Oh, it does say Tessemu here. This needs to be added to my thesis, because they mentioned dogs. But they don't use the dog hieroglyph. That's annoying. Thank you for stopping by. We're probably gonna end soon. We were supposed to read one more story, but we got sidetracked and did not realize that the first story was so long. But it's okay. The Eloquent Peasant is not that interesting. This one is semi-interesting, but the Eloquent Peasant is a little boring. It's all about speaking well to your superiors, which is kind of boring. But we're in the middle of the story of Sinue, who has fled. he is the king has died, and then for some reason he was so scared that he fled all the way to Syria, and now he has been married to a Syrian chief's daughter and has this land, and he has all this stuff, which is great. So apparently, as well as the good of my hounds, which this word right here is hounds, which is kind of weird. It doesn't have the dog hieroglyph, but that's annoying. They made for me numerous foods and milk in every kind of dish. I spent many years, and my children had grown to adults, each man of them in control of his own clan, and any envoy on his way to or from the residence, he stopped by me. I sheltered everyone, I gave water to the thirsty, I placed the man who went astray back on the road, I rescued the afflicted. Any Syrians who fell to fermenting strife and disturbing the rulers of the hill lands, I challenged their movements. This ruler of Syria made me spend many years as commander of his army. Every hill land I moved against, I ensured I prevailed over it. Removing down to the plants at its wells, I captured its cattle, brought away its servants, and removed their food, and slew its inhabitants. By my right arm, by my bow, by my movements, by my excellent plans. I became invaluable to him, and he loved me, for he knew how valiant I was. He placed me at the head of his children, for he saw the firmness of my arms. Then there came a hero of Syria who challenged me in my tent. He was an unrivaled champion who had prevailed over the entire region. He said he would fight me. He intended to smite me. See, that's not a rhyme. It's a rhyme now, but it's definitely not an ancient Egyptian rhyme, but it is funny how that happens. He planned to carry off my cattle before the council of his clan. Whoa, okay. The ruler was consulting with me, so I said I did not know the man, that it was not I who went to him and strode into his tent, or was it I who opened his gate and moved past his walls? He must have been tempted to it when he saw me carrying out your missions. Well, I am like a bull of the strikers amid another herd of cattle. The bull of the herd smites him, the horned bull assails him. Does a lowly man become loved when fate makes him a master? What a great sentence. There is no desert nomad who befriends a marshman. Does a marsh reed flourish on the mountainside? Does a bull love to fight? Then should a herd leader like to turn back in fear of being matched? If he wishes to fight, let him be told his wish. Does a god not know what he ordained, or a man who knows how it will be? I went to rest, tied my bow, sharpened my arrows, whetted the blade of my dagger, arrayed my weapons. At dawn Syria came, it roused its people. It assembled the hill lands on either side, for it knew of this fight. He came toward me as I stood, and I placed myself next to him. Every heart was burning for me, women and men pounding, every mind was willing me on. Is there any hero that can fight against him? I'm wondering what word they're using for hero. I'm cautious about the translation of hero, but I'm wondering. And then his shield, his dagger, his armor, his holder of spears fell, and as I approached his weapons, I made my face dodge, and his weapons were wasted as nothing, each piled on the next. Then he made his charge against me. He imagined he would strike my arm, and as he moved over me, I shot him. My arrow lodged in his neck. He cried out and fell on his nose. I felled him with his dagger. I uttered my war cry on his back. Every Asiatic lowing, I gave praise to Mont, which is... Oh, I've heard of Mont. Mont's a kind of more rare deity. As his servants mourned for him. The ruler Emuneshi took me to his embrace. Then I brought away his goods. I carried off his cattle, which he had planned to do to me. I did to him. I seized what was in his camp and uncovered his tent. There I was in greatness. I was broad in my standing. I enjoyed wealth in cattle. Thus the god acted to make peace for the one he had cursed, and the one he led away to another hill land. Today his heart is appeased. The fugitive flees from his surroundings, but my right place is in the residence. The deserter deserts from hunger, but I can give bread to my neighbor. A man abandons his land from nakedness, but I own white linen, finest cloth. A man runs away from lack of one to send, but I own many servants. My estate is fine, my place is broad, my renown is in the palace. I think he's contemplating going back to Egypt. Whichever god ordained this flight, be at peace, give me back to the residence. Have mercy on me and let me see the place where my heart resides. See how great it is to wrap my corpse in the land in which I was born. Come in my defense then, a good event has occurred. I have appeased the god. May he act so as to bring right the end of for one he afflicted. May his heart ache for the one he excluded to live on the hill land. Today at last he is appeased. Let him hear the prayer of exile. May he bring back his arm for the one he forced over the land, bring to the place he brought him from. May the king of Egypt be content with me. May I live in his pleasure. Greetings the lady who is in his palace. May I hear the missions of her children, that my body be young, for now old age has descended. Sloth has overwhelmed me. My eyes are heavy, my arms slack, my legs are unstable, my heart seeks rest. I am drawn close to departure, where they will bear me to the city of eternity. May I follow the lady of all, that she may tell me what is good for her children. May she draw eternity over me. Now report was made to the majesty of the dual king, Keper-ka-re, justified. Concerning this condition I was suffering. Then his majesty sent to me largesse before the king. He extended his heart to this servant as to a ruler of any hill land, and the king's children who were in his palace let me hear their commissions. So Keper-ka-re is the throne name of Senusret I. And so this is the son. This is the one who has become the king. Also, this is presumably the time period that this was written, which makes sense because of how many sections in this in this story did they compliment Senusret I and his prowess as a army guy, pretty much. Okay. Copy of the decree brought to the servant concerning bringing him to Egypt. The Horus living of births, he of the two ladies living of births, the dual king Keper-ka-re, son of Ra of Amenemhet, living forever eternally, decree to the king, to the follower, Senat. See, this decree of the king is brought to you to inform you that you have traveled the hill lands going from Kedem of Syria. Hill land gave to you hill land following the counsel of your heart to yourself. What was it you had done or had been done to you? You did not say wrong to that your words be punished. You did not speak in the council of officials that your statements be bound. This matter it carried off your heart. There was nothing in my heart against you. This is your heaven who is in the palace. She is well and strong today. Her head is adorned with the kingship of this land. Her children are in the inner palace. Whew. My throat hurts. I've talked too much. May you add the riches of their gift to you, that you may live by their offerings. Prepare your return to Egypt, that you may see the residence where you were born, that you may kiss the ground of the great double gate and join the courtiers. Today, now you have begun to age. You have unrivaled virility. You have You are reminded of the day of burial, of passing to reverence. That a night is cut for you with oils and wrappings from the goddess of linen. A procession of passing is made for you on the day of rejoicing the earth. A case of gold, a mask of lapis lazuli, a sky over you, placed in the bier. The oxen drawing you, chanters in front of you, dancers are made by the sacred dancers at the door of your tomb. Offerings are pronounced for you, meat is butchered at the door of your chapel. Your column is enriched with silver in the midst of the king's children. You will not die upon the hill land. The Asiatics will not inter you. You are not to be placed in a sheepskin at your enclosure is made. It is too long for wandering the land. Think of the corpse and return. So the biggest deal of this is that he's going to return to Egypt to go to die, because he knows that he cannot be buried in the quote-unquote correct way unless he goes to Egypt. And one of the big things that you see here is that you will not be placed in a sheepskin. It was so taboo for the ancient Egyptians to be buried in a sheepskin, because that is tending to be a Levant tradition at that time, and it was very taboo. And you can see it's here. It's like, they're not going to bury you, they're going to put you in a sheepskin. You don't want that. That's not how you want to die and go to the afterlife, pretty much. This decree reached me as soon as I stood among my clan. It was read out to me, and I placed myself on my belly. I touched the ground and put it strewn over my chest, and I went around my camp shouting aloud, How is this done for a servant whose heart led him astray to foreign lands? This is utter good, the mercy that rescues me from death. Your spirit will let me spend the end of my bodily days in the residence. Copy of the report to this decree. The servant of the palace Senat says, in peace very greatly, concerning this flight made by the humble servant in his ignorance, it is your Ka, good God, Lord of the two lands, whom Ra loves, praised by Mont, Lord of Thebes, and Amun, Lord of the throne of the two lands, by Sobek Ra, Horus, Hathor, Atum, and his 9 gods, Soped, perfect of might, of Semseru, Horus the Easterner, the lady of the cavern, may she join your brow, the tribunal at the front of the flood. Min Horus amid the hilllands, the great goddess, lady of Punch, Nu Torah, Horewa, all the gods of Egypt in the hillland of the islands of the great green, may they give life and power to your nostrils, may they join you in their giving, may they grant you eternity without end and unbounded time. Fear of your rebounds through lands and hilllands, you grasp what the sun disk circles. So long. So long. It's genuinely wild. This is a prayer by the humble servant of his Lord for rescue from the west. Now the guy lists all the different gods. Lord of insight, who perceives the populace, who is insight in the majesty of the palace, this humble servant is in fear for saying it. It is like the matter too great to be repeated. Great God, equal of Ra, in informing the one who has worked for him himself. This humble servant is in the hand of the one consulting about him. It has to be placed under his care. Your majesty is Horus, who seizes your arms, are stronger than all lands. Now your majesty decrees that he be brought. And Meki and Kedem, the mountain men leading Kesh, menaced from the land of Fenku. These are the rulers by their exact names who have come to your affection. Without mentioning Syria, as much as yours as are your dogs. No, they don't use it anymore. They're not using the dog hieroglyph. I'm really mad about that. As for this flight made by the servant, it was not planned, it was not in my heart. I did not plot it, for I do not know what separated me from my place. It was like a dream. It is if a Delta man saw himself in Abu, a marsh man in the land of Nubia. I did not fear, I was not persecuted, I heard no accusation. My name was not heard in the mouth of the reporter, yet my limbs went cold, legs panicked, my heart took hold of me. The God who decreed this flight led me away. I am not the arrogant, not I, the man who knows his land he fears. Ra has set fear of you throughout the land, the dread of you in every hill land. Place me in the residence or in this place. You are still the one who clothes this horizon. The disk shines for love of you. Water is in the river to be drunk at your desire. The air in the sky, it is breathed in when you say so. The humble servant is to hand over the staff acquired by the servant in this place, and the servant will be returned as your majesty permits in his desire. We live by the breath of your gift, as Ra, Horus, and Hathor love this your noble life, as Mont, Lord of Thebes, wishes that it live forever. I was permitted a day in the Iaa to hand over my things to my children, with my eldest son in charge of my clan, and all my things in his hands, my servants, all my cattle, my fruits, all my sweet trees. This servant arrived south. I touched on the ways of Horus, and the commander there, who was organizing patrols, sent a message to the residents to inform them that then his majesty sent the good overseer of foragers of the king's house, followed by ships laden with gifts before the king, for the Syrians who came along with me to bring to the ways of Horus. The ways of Horus are all the paths that leave Egypt to go to the Levant or go out. They're called the ways of Horus. I pronounced each of them by his name. All the cupbearers were busy at their tasks. I received and the captain loaded for me, and there was kneading and straining beside me until I reached the land of Ichawi. We're almost there. Very early at daybreak, there came to summons for me, 10 men coming, 10 men going to lead me to the palace. I touched the ground between the dawn rays as the king's children stood on the walls at the conduct of my approach. The courtiers were led to the audience hall as I was placed on the way to the inner palace. I found his majesty on the great throne of a podium of electrum. Then I was stretched out on my belly. I lost myself in his presence. This god addressed me friendly is a weird word. As I was like a man seized in pitch black, my soul had gone, my body trembled, my heart was no longer in my body. Could I know a life from death? Then His Majesty said to one of those courtiers, "Raise him and let him speak to me." Then His Majesty said, "Look at you, on returning from traveling the hill lands. The flight has worked its impact on you. You are grown old. You have reached old age. There is no trifle that your body will be purified, that you will not be interred by nomads. Do not be silent. You have not spoken, though your name is pronounced." Fearing the hands of punishment, I answered with the answer of the fearful. "What has my lord said to me, that I might answer it? There is no slight to the god in this. It is terror that resides in my body, just as the fated flight came to me. See before me, you are life. May your Majesty do as he desires." Then the king's children were brought in, and His Majesty said to the king's wife, "Here is Sanhat, returned as an Asiatic, remade as a Syrian." She uttered a very great cry, and the king's children in one outburst. They said before His Majesty, "It cannot truly be him, sovereign my lord." And His Majesty said, "It is true. It is truly he." Sorry, I read that wrong. At that they brought their counterpoises, their images, their sistra in their hands, and they waved them at His Majesty. "Your arms are for the good, O king enduring, the endowments of the Lady of Heaven. The goddess gold gives life to your nose. The Lady of the Stars unite with you. The south crown fares north, the northern south, united as one in the way of your Majesty. The cobra is set at your brow. You have removed the weak from evil. Ra, Lord of the two lands, is pleased with you. Praise to you as to the Lady of all. Rest your bow, untie your arrow, give breath to the one of life in lifelessness. Allow us this good turn, this wayfarer, son of the north wind, the nomad born in Egypt. He took flight for fear of you. He abandoned the land in dread of you. There will be no destruction for the face that sees your face. There will be no fear for the eye that looks at you." Oh, that almost didn't continue. I thought that was the end. Then His Majesty said, "He shall not fear, nor be given over to terror. He is to be a courtier among the officials. He may be placed in the midst of the court. Proceed to the inner palace for instruction in appointing his standing." So I went inside the inner palace, the king's children giving me their arms. I went then to the great double gate, and I was installed as at the house of a king's son, full of riches, with a bathroom. That's not the translation correct. That is not a correct translation. With a bathroom and images of the horizon, with valuables from the treasury, clothing of royal linen, and ointment from the first of for the king's officials whom he loves. Every cupbearer was busy at his task. Love how he doesn't define bathroom. Years were made to fall from my body as I was shorn, my hair combed. The load was returned to the hill land, the garments to the nomads. I was arrayed in fine linen and anointed with first quality oil. I lay down on a bed and returned the sand to its dwellers, and the tree oil to those who anoint themselves with it. I was given the house of a lord of an estate as a gift from the courtier. Numerous craftsmen built it up, and everything was strengthened anew. Foods were continually delivered to me from the palace 3 or 4 times a day, besides the gifts of the king's children, without a moment of pausing. A pyramid chapel of stone was built for me amid the pyramids. The overseer of glaze works of the pyramid procured its ground. The overseer of sealers did the drawing, and the sculptors did the cutting. The overseer of works, who was at the pyramid temple, ferried for it. Every tool that is set on to the temple terrace, it found its task there. I was given spirit servants. I made an estate for the cult, containing fields as endowment, as the landing stage as is done for the foremost official. My name was adorned with gold, its kilt in electrum. It is His Majesty who has done it, nor poor mortal will ever receive such treatment. I am in the favor of becoming the king, until the coming of the day to more. Is that it? The end note. This is the completion from its start to finish, as found in writing. Oh, this is University College London. I didn't know that. Well then, that's the frickin' story. Oh my god, that's the story. My voice is completely dead. But that was the story. of the story of Sinuhe, which I haven't read that one before, so that was a new one.